"We want this one, Dad," the twins insisted, while the whole town whispered that the widow was too wide to marry. "You won't stay here." Nora Ashford stood in her parents' kitchen, clutching her worn satchel, as her father's words cut through her like a blade. "Papa, please," she whispered. "I can work. I can help." Her mother's voice was sharp as shattered glass. "You've been nothing but a burden since the day you were born. We married you off at 17, thinking you'd finally be someone else's problem. And now you're back." Nora's throat tightened. "Thomas died of fever. I didn't—" "It doesn't matter what killed him," her father interrupted. "What matters is what people are saying. They say you worked him to death. They say your weight broke his back. They say God punished him for marrying a woman like you." Her mother crossed her arms. "The neighbors mock us. The church whispers. We can't keep you here." She shoved a train ticket into Nora's trembling hands. "The mail-order bride wagon is heading to Ridgewood territory. You'll go with them." "But I'm not a bride," Nora said, her voice barely audible. "No one wants—" "Then find work," her mother snapped. "In a kitchen, a boarding house, anywhere. But not here." Her father grabbed her arm and dragged her to the door. "The train leaves in an hour. Don't come back." The door slammed shut behind her. Nora stood alone in the cold dawn, tears streaming down her face. She was being cast out again. At the station, 3 young women in bright dresses stood giggling by the platform. Mail-order brides, full of hope. They glanced at Nora and whispered, "Who's that? She doesn't look like a bride. Maybe she's going as cargo." Laughter followed. Nora gripped her bag tighter, eyes fixed on the ground. The station master called out, "All brides heading to Ridgewood territory." Nora made her way to the train. A man's voice rang from the crowd. "Wait! Who's letting her on? She'll sink the whole thing." More laughter. Nora's face burned, but she boarded and found a seat in the far corner, away from the other women. As the train pulled away, she stared out the window at the town she'd never see again. She was 23, a widow, unwanted, and utterly alone. Hours later, the train arrived at Ridgewood Station. The platform was crowded with ranch owners and townsfolk, all eager to see the brides. The 3 young women stepped off first, greeted with smiles and tipped hats. Then Nora descended. The crowd fell silent. A rancher muttered, "Who is that?" "She's not on the list," said another. The station master checked his clipboard, frowning. "We expected 3 brides, not 4. Nora's voice was faint. "I'm not a bride. I'm heading to my sister in Silverpine. I just needed to stop here." "To your sister?" A woman's voice cut through, dripping with mockery. "Or were you hoping some desperate fool would take you?" Laughter rippled through the crowd. "Look at her size. She's too wide to marry." Someone started chanting softly, "Too wide to marry. Too wide to marry." Others joined in. Nora's hands shook. She stepped back toward the train, wishing she could vanish. Then 2 small voices pierced the noise. "We want this one, Dad." Everyone turned. 2 little girls, identical twins in bright blue dresses, broke from the crowd and ran past the pretty brides. They stopped in front of Nora, gazing up with wide, serious eyes. "She's perfect," said the first girl. "She looks like the mama in our picture book." The second girl grabbed Nora's hand. "Please, Dad, we want her." Gasps spread through the crowd. The station master laughed nervously. "Girls, she's not one of the brides. She's just—" "We want this one," the first girl shouted louder. A tall figure emerged from the back of the crowd. The man was broad-shouldered and strong, his face shadowed under his hat brim. His boots thudded heavily on the wooden platform as he walked. The crowd parted for him. He stopped before Nora and looked down at her, his expression unreadable. Not cruel, not kind, just appraising. "You need a place to stay?" His voice was low and rough, but steady. Nora swallowed. "I'm not." Simple question. "Need a place or not?" "Yes," she whispered. "Then you'll come with us." The station master muttered, "Caleb, you can't be serious." Caleb's eyes didn't leave Nora. My daughters made their choice. He turned and walked to a wagon at the platform's edge. The twins grabbed Nora's hands and pulled her forward. Behind them, the crowd erupted in whispers. He's taking her? Those girls have lost their minds. She'll ruin his home and his ranch. But Nora stumbled after him, her heart pounding. She couldn't comprehend what had just happened. The town had mocked her, rejected her, but two little girls had chosen her, and their father had let them. The wagon rolled over uneven ground, wheels creaking with every turn. Dust rose in soft clouds behind them, and the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the prairie. The twins sat on either side of Nora, their small bodies pressing close. Their chatter filled the silence like birdsong. "What's your name?" asked the first girl, tilting her head. "Nora," she replied softly. "I'm Lily," the girl beamed. "And this is Rose. We're twins." "I can see that," Nora said, a faint smile touching her lips despite everything. Rose leaned closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. "Do you like horses?" "I suppose I do." "Good," Lily nodded seriously. "Because Dad has lots of horses and cows and chickens. And sometimes the chickens are mean, but Dad says they're just protecting their eggs." Nora glanced at the front of the wagon. Caleb sat with his back straight, reins loose in his hands, eyes fixed on the road ahead. He hadn't said a word since leaving the station. His silence was heavy, not cruel, but impenetrable, like a wall she couldn't see through. Rose tugged at Nora's sleeve. "Can you braid hair?" "I can," Nora said. "Mama used to braid our hair," Lily said quietly. "But she's gone now." Nora's chest ached. "I'm sorry." Rose looked up with wide, innocent eyes. "It's okay. Dad says she's with the angels, but we miss her." "I'm sure you do," Nora whispered. The wagon hit a rut, jolting them all. Nora grabbed the side to steady herself, and Caleb's voice cut through the air for the first time since they'd left. "Hold on back there." His tone was even matter-of-fact, not unkind but not warm either. Nora swallowed and nodded, though he couldn't see her. The ranch appeared on the horizon as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was larger than Nora expected. A sturdy house with a wide porch, a barn that leaned slightly to one side, fences stretching far into the distance. Some sagged, some broken. Laundry hung limp on a line, half-dried and forgotten. The garden was overgrown with weeds. It was a place that had once been cared for, but no longer. Caleb halted the wagon by the house and climbed down without a word. The twins scrambled after him, pulling Nora along. He walked to the porch, opened the door, and stepped inside. Nora hesitated at the threshold, uncertain. "Come on," Lily said, tugging her hand. Inside, the house was dim and quiet. Dust floated in the beams of light slipping through the windows. Dishes were stacked in a basin, a shirt draped over a chair back. The floor was swept, but barely. Caleb pointed down a narrow hallway. "Rooms are that way. Second door. You can stay there." Nora nodded. "Thank you." He didn't reply, just turned and headed to the kitchen. His boots thudded heavily on the wooden floor. Rose pulled at Nora's skirt. "Come see our room." The girls led her down the hall, chattering excitedly. Their voices were a bright contrast to the heaviness hanging in the house. Their room was small but tidy. Two narrow beds with blankets that had seen better days. A wooden doll lay on one pillow, its painted face faded. A cracked mirror hung on the wall. "This is our bedroom," Lily said proudly. "It's lovely," Nora said softly. Rose climbed onto her bed and patted the spot beside her. "Will you sit with us?" Nora sat, and the girls snuggled close, one on each side. "Tell us a story," Lily said. "I don't know many stories," Nora admitted. "That's okay," Rose said. "Just make one up." So Nora did. She told them about a girl who lived in a valley where flowers grew taller than trees, and every star in the sky had a name. The girls listened, eyes wide, until their breathing slowed and their heads grew heavy on her arms. Nora looked up and froze. Caleb stood in the doorway, arms crossed. The lantern light flickered on him. He said nothing, just watched as she tucked the girl's hair back with gentle strokes. Of course. Outside, the wind died down again. Inside, the only sound was the twins' slow, even breathing. And in that quiet, something unspoken settled between them. Trust, and the quiet beginning of belonging. The following days were different. Caleb didn't just watch anymore. He worked beside her, talked to her, asked questions. "Where'd you learn to handle livestock?" he asked one afternoon as they mended a fence together. "My husband had a small farm," Nora said. "I helped with everything. He didn't leave me much choice." Caleb glanced at her. "You didn't love him." It wasn't a question. Nora hammered a nail into the post. Her hands were steady. "No, I didn't. But I tried to be a good wife." "I'm sure you were." He paused. He was a fool if he couldn't see that. Nora looked at him, surprised. His expression was serious, eyes steady. "You're one of the strongest people I've ever met," he said. "And anyone who couldn't see that didn't deserve you." Nora's chest tightened. She turned away, blinking quickly. "Thank you," she whispered. Caleb reached out. His hand brushed hers for just a moment. Then he turned back to the fence and kept working. One afternoon, the twins begged Nora to let them help bake cookies. She finally gave in, tying on aprons that were too big and rolling up their sleeves. Lily scooped flour with great ceremony, too much, too fast. A white cloud billowed up, covering everything. Nora gasped, blinking through the powder. Her hair and dress turned ghostly white. For a second, silence. Then the twins burst into laughter. "You look like a snow lady," Rose squealed, clapping her hands. Nora tried to frown but couldn't stop smiling. "You two are little rascals." "Dad," Lily called toward the open doorway. "Come see what we did." Caleb appeared, drawn by the noise. He took one look at Nora. Flower in her hair, the twins grinning up at her, and started laughing, deep and open. "You baking or starting a blizzard?" "A bit of both, apparently," Nora said, wiping her face with the back of her wrist. "You're next, Dad," Lily declared. And before he could move, Rose flung a handful of flour at him. It hit him square in the chest. The twins froze for a second. Silence. Then Nora's laughter bubbled out, bright and helpless. Caleb's eyebrow arched slowly. He stepped forward, eyeing her. "Is that how it is?" he said softly. Then he dipped his hand into the bowl and gently drew a streak of flour across her cheek. The twins shrieked with delight. Nora's breath caught because, for a moment, his hand lingered. His thumb brushed her skin. Not teasing now, but soft, deliberate. Their eyes met through the drifting flour dust, and the noise around them faded. Something shifted. The air between them grew still, tender, charged and unspoken. Then Rose broke it, giggling. "Dad likes Nora," Lily gasped. "We told you he does." Caleb cleared his throat. "All right, enough mischief. Clean up for supper." The twins scampered off, still giggling, leaving a trail of white footprints. Nora turned back to the table, wiping her hands and trying not to smile. "You didn't have to join their antics," she said softly. Caleb's voice came low behind her. "Didn't mind." She glanced over her shoulder, and there it was again, that quiet warmth in his eyes. Not laughter now, something deeper. For a long second, neither moved. And in that small, flour-dusted kitchen, with the scent of bread and laughter still hanging in the air, something fragile and beautiful began to take root. Sunday morning arrived with golden light and the smell of fresh bread. Nora dressed carefully, smoothing her best dress. Her hands trembled. Caleb had asked her to go to church with him and the girls. Not ordered, asked. And she'd agreed. The twins were bright-eyed, hair freshly braided, dresses clean. "You look pretty, Nora," Lily said. "So do you," Nora smiled. Caleb appeared in the doorway, hat in hand, expression unreadable. "Ready," she nodded. The ride into town was quiet. The twins chattered. Caleb and Nora did not. The silence between them carried the weight of things felt but not yet spoken. When they reached the church, heads turned. Whispers rose immediately. "That's her, the one from the station." She's still there, living with him. Not married, shameful. Nora's stomach twisted, but she lifted her chin. Caleb walked beside her, solid and protective. His hand hovered near her back, not touching. The twins grabbed her hands, oblivious, as they climbed the steps. They took a pew near the back. The sermon began, but Nora couldn't focus. She felt the judgment in every glance, every murmur. Then, mid-sermon, the Reverend paused. "Mr. Thorne," he said, his voice echoing through the room. "There's concern about the woman living under your roof." Silence. Caleb's jaw tightened. "Is there?" "We think of propriety," the Reverend said, "and of your daughters. Surely you understand how it looks." "Looks to who?" Caleb asked, his voice calm but cutting. "To society. To God." Caleb stood. The twins looked up with wide eyes. "Let me make something clear," he said, firm as iron. "Nora Ashford saved my daughters' lives. She's worked my ranch, cared for my girls when I couldn't, and asked nothing in return." The Reverend shifted. Caleb didn't stop. "This town mocked her the day she arrived, called her names, made her feel small. But my daughters saw what none of you did. They saw her heart." He turned. His eyes softened on Nora. "And so did I." Nora's breath caught, tears glistening in her eyes. Caleb faced the congregation again. "If anyone here has a problem with her staying, they can take it up with me. But I won't let her be shamed anymore. Not ever." Lily suddenly stood on the pew, her voice bright and sure. "We want her to be our mama." Rose stood beside her. "Forever." The church froze. Then, from the front, an elderly woman rose. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "I judged her. I'm sorry." Another woman followed. "Me too." One by one, others stood. "Not all, but enough." The Reverend cleared his throat. "I suppose that settles it." Caleb took Nora's hand. Together they walked out. The twins hurried after them. Outside, under the wide blue sky, Caleb stopped. "Nora Ashford," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I'm not a man of fancy words, but I know what I want, and I want you." Her heart stilled. "Not because my daughters chose you, not because you fit this place, but because you're the strongest, kindest, most stubborn woman I've ever known, and I don't want to spend another day without you." Then he dropped to one knee. The twins gasped. "Will you marry me?" Tears flowed freely down Nora's face. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, I will." He rose and pulled her into his arms. The twins threw themselves at them both, laughing and crying. From the doorway, townsfolk watched. Some smiled, some whispered, some turned away. But Nora didn't care, because for the first time in her life she wasn't too much. She was enough, and she was home. So Nora Ashford found what she'd searched for her whole life. Not just a home, but a family that chose her. Not in spite of who she was, but because of it. The town's whispers faded into silence. The shame dissolved like morning mist, and in its place stood something stronger, unbreakable. Because sometimes the people who see our worth are the ones we least expect. And sometimes the smallest voices speak the loudest truth. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in these women. And thank you for reminding us all that worth isn't something to earn. It's just there. Subscribe for more, and we'll see you in the next one.